Hey, happy Saturday. I think it must be the beginning of like fishing season here on the canal or something because, man, there's a lot of boats and trailers out there this morning. And boy, there's some committed people. It's a little chilly. I don't mind living near the canal, but I don't want to be out on it or in it personally. That's why I'm moving back to the desert. And, I've learned that if you kind of stay where your vibrations aren't really reaching their highest possibility, well, something must be needing an adjustment. Everything. The thing is that over time, I think back in my life, how many decisions I made, how many changes I made, and I've learned that I have no fear of change. Change is the only thing I found in life that was permanent. When I was 13 years old, our house burned down. I was home babysitting, and I saved my sister's life. And I was, from there on, ever changed. I learned that, there's to be attached to material things is nuts. And I've been around some of the highest price spreads that you can go to. I've had, millionaires as associates and friends and clients in New York and LA. And so I understand all the variances. I had in 1980, if you want to hear a story, now some people have been asking me in comments to tell some, want to hear some story. Okay, here's some story. Back in 1980, I was the chef of a hotel in downtown Seattle. It was a medium-sized but well managed, and I was the executive chef. And I was living in a studio apartment, drove a little 59 Metropolitan Nash, looked like a little saddle shoe. I was having fairly regular sex with the desk girl who was like 20. I was 27 years old. And I went to Miami to my brother's wedding, and I met this other woman who was down there. I saw the Bee Gees perform, and on their very last the date of their world tour, and then went to a private party at the Hotel Fontainebleau, which is where she was the manager of social affairs or something. So after a whirlwind trip there, she was moving back to New York. She knew all these people. My life changed again because I decided I needed to move back to New York because I'd already lived there once before, and I was a rising young chef, and I was getting a little bored with Seattle. I'd been back for like 7 years. And so, so there I go, back to New York. Now, along the way, the desk girl who, we were just playing around, but somehow she convinced me that she really had to come to New York and get out of Seattle. So we went together, but we had an agreement. And it wasn't like we weren't married. It wasn't a big commitment and all that stuff. Anyway, she couldn't handle it. She ended up trying to take her own life with my kitchen knives. How convenient. When I was coming home from a job interview for my new Park Avenue corporate job cooking for the corpse. And that was fun. What a pleasant surprise. Nice to see you too, honey. So after I shuffled her off to the hospital, got her wrapped up real good up there, I called her parents back in Seattle and I said, hey, I'm not going to have this blood on my hands, And so they made an immediate arrangement. She got on a plane and Zoom, she's gone. So I get this Park Avenue job. I'm, living on top of the world. In the meantime, I was a roller skater, okay? So I used to ride around with these headphones, the blasting music. I had this cap with mercury wings on it. I wore these little tight shorts, and I towered in skates, and I was a pretty good street skater. I called myself a guerrilla street skater in New York, and this is 1980. So I was living pretty large. Had a nice studio apartment in the West Side. And next thing you know, my brother kills himself. I'm going, great. How convenient. So I do another whole shuffle around. and I go back to Seattle and help handle affairs and all this. And we put my brother to rest. And I go back to New York, and my brother, in the meantime, was an acting teacher in New York, had a class. He was graduating his very first class of students. And so I catered it for him, and it was quite an event for me. It was a lot of work. But more importantly, one of his students ended up being my first wife. And she hung around after the party to kind of help me clean up. It was kind of in her, Virgo nature. But she is a Gemini. And so, anyway, there I was in the afternoon. It was just her and I doing all this work and cleanup and stuff. And I'd done so much work and been going for days. And at this point had plenty of cocaine and alcohol and champagne that I was drinking her water of life and fell asleep in her lap. And ended up marrying this girl. So as time went on, she got me into the EST program. So I did the EST training, this very year. And then before you know it, I'm at a EST event, and I'm getting introduced to the Amway business. So the beginning of 1981, I started in the Amway business. I was one of the fastest growing people around. Yeah, I went from, I grew fast. I had no inhibitions. It was like all about change. So I found a lot of hope in selling soap. And so, over the course of a few years, I was doing tons of seminars, tons of trainings, motivating people, moving lots of product, had lots and lots of motivational equipment, selling books and tapes. And I knew how to sell a dream. And so, along with the dream, I sold a lot of products. I had I don't know, some 400 people and I was in 5 countries, or, it was big. I had a $250,000 business. And, but things started going a little south. When I was like, at this point, I was already a emerald. And I'd only been in, at this point about 3 years. And we were at a big function in Orlando, Florida. And at this function, they had a Sunday morning non-denominational service. Amen. Well, I wasn't interested in the general overall thing. I was always a spiritual seeker, but I'm going to get more to the point. They did a Sunday morning baptismal in the swimming pool, and there were 300 people in it. Yeah, wearing gowns and shit. And one of them was my wife. Yeah, and one of my other directs wives. And before you know it, things started to change. Things started getting weirder. I got to a point where, when and she saw me like as a demon. After I built this huge business, I mean, well, it's my business. I mean, she eventually jumped in, but I built it from the very beginning. And so anyway, I'd be drinking her water of life, and she'd be reading Bibles and praying and stuff. Yeah, because I was the devil. I was the, I love what is good and hate what is evil. Yeah, she'd say shit like that. So things kept getting weirder. So naturally, at this point, my natural rebellious, decidedly fight or flight survival kit, had me immediately. I was like, I was having sex with my upline direct. I was having sex with a crossline, wife. Shit was going sideways, big time. A lot of change. So what was happening is I was still out there on the circuit. I was flying around private jets. I was hanging out with millionaires. I was making eggs Benedict in the mountains for multi-millionaires because I wanted to. I was just chilling with them. I had the privilege of being the guy cooking breakfast for him in the mountain cabin, which only happened to have about 14 bedrooms and a red felt pool table. So I had a really interesting life because what was happening, it all looked like success. From the outside, it was like people just hung on my every word. I'd have a mic in my hand in front of 10 and 20,000 people, and flying around in private jets. It was really a contrast from the, Mercury winged guy, roller skating everywhere, all over. I'd roller skate 8 and 10, 12 hours a day. I was good and I was fit. So by this point, this straw man that I used to be, that used to wear three-piece suits, got to the point where I couldn't wear the vests. I was putting on so much weight, doing meetings till 4 in the morning, eating waffles, drinking coffee, and all that. So I sabotaged it big time. Started doing a lot more coke, running around, just, doing whatever I could to destroy this life because I hated myself, But in the meantime, I was out there, get it, get it, get it. You can do it too. You could have this beautiful, glamorous, wonderful life. Go, 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 diamond. Yay. What a crock of shit. What was happening is all my integrity had slid away. I had no integrity. I was lying, cheating, and stealing my own heart and life away. So after 4 years, I walked away. I gave my wife first right of refusal because it was clear we were done. And so I gave her first right of refusal. I said, whoever takes the business takes the asset and liability. The other one takes a walk. You have first right to refusal. And I built this $250,000 business. I had a loft in Soho and a studio on 56th Street up in Midtown. We had 7 bank accounts. We had 23 different credit cards, I swear to God. And I had a huge business. I was running a huge production company underneath all of this and motivational sales stuff. And but I was done. So I said, whatever. And she thought I was too demonic to run my own business. I said, cool. So I took my self-respect, my self-love, my $175, my skis, my clothes, my stereo, and my dignity and walked out the door. I just walked away from it. Now, that was a 4-year course in advanced, bullshit. How to go to screw you, how to get to the high, but it was a wonderful life. From all appearances. And I had a good time. I really did. It was, I had the opportunity to empower people. So now I'm going to fast forward. That's an old story, you see. Now I intend to, awaken people to an incredible world, one that isn't colliding. And it's all an inside job. And so that is my mission anymore. That's the only thing I really care about. And I've just learned in a dramatic fashion, just from my recent fast, how, if I spent years and years and years, if I spent really literally a lifetime putting all this toxic waste and poison into my body, how fast I really think it's going to come out? Now, that shit ain't going to change overnight. Ain't going to happen like that. But I can change my mind in a blink of an eye. And when I do, when you change your mind, things start to change. Hey, guess what? Whatever you think about, you bring about. You redo your focus, and all of a sudden, you got a paradigm shift. Pretty simple. It's not easy. It's never easy. This shit is hard. You got to practice, practice, practice. You got to have a lot of humility. You got to have a lot of compassion. You got to know how to listen. You got to be available. You got to be here now, like Ram Dass says. And if you're not willing to do that, you're just going to go on with your life. Everybody does. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live a life. I'm just telling you how I'm choosing to live my life. So it's all about vibration. And if we're not listening to the correct vibration, if we're not following our natural, intuitives, our instinctuals, and listening carefully, we may run astray. And, when people build up all of these, huge beliefs, big time, ingrained from the time they're really little, and then they do things habitually, addictively. And it shows, whether it shows physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, doesn't matter. It's all relative. It's all connected. And until we get to the source, we'll never figure it out. So, I told you the Amway story because that was just one of the suits I used to wear, in my straw man. And as a straw man, I was many people. I was a chef. I was an Amway guy. Sold advertising, drove taxis, you name it. I did my first show production. I started show business in 1977. I did my first show, and the reason I created the show, it was on a boat. I rented a boat, hired a band, and it was to promote my catering. I was 23 years old. And so I understand, promotion. I understand this stuff. And I understand self-loathing. I understand self-sabotage. I really do. I mean, I'm good at it. A successful failure like nobody's business, man. I have 5-star rating there. But that was then. That's not me now. Those were characters I wrote in the script. These were people that I happened to direct in this movie called My Life. And so there was a lot of characters there. And so I decided, when I got introduced to Casey Caban, and that came along through Tibetan numerology from some of my far-out friends in Sedona, Arizona. And I liked the sound of it. It just had a ring to it, Casey Caban. I thought, well, that's a good name. I think I'll go with that. Now, that's been, 14, 15 years ago now, and I've used that as I identify with this person. This is a person that I adopted. It wasn't just another suit that I wore as an identity crisis, or something I did because this is what I do. This is what I've done. This is what I have. Yeah, but who are you being? Who are you really, And that's the serious, deep question. It's like, well, man, I didn't know. So, when you have beliefs and you're stuck with them, and some people are really stuck with them, and they live in denial. And they're going to hang on so tight to their beliefs and their patterns and their toxic behaviors and consumptions that, it's going to, this is going to kill me. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're going to do that till it kills you. Yeah, it's true. But now, see, here's the big shift, is that I have been doing nothing but concentrating on getting rid of the, people I used to be, people I used to know. It's just somebody I used to know. And it's not me anymore. And I realize that anybody can change. I'm not special. I mean, I'm unique. I like everybody else. I'm just made up of whatever bullshit I made up, and I just I'm comfortable with it. I'll wear I'll wear it well. I'll carry the banner. And so it's all about vibration. And I'm working on raising my vibration and getting the static out. And you can't do that carrying too many extra bags. You can't do it dragging around your past. It's just not possible. It's too much weight. You can't fly that way. And people are scared to death of change. They will kill themselves before they change. So along comes urine therapy. Okay, and now I'm doing something that I think is phenomenal. To me, it's more important than anything that I've ever done. It's actually, I consider, the most valuable information I ever learned to date. And it's the most comfortable and most practical and most meaningful and the most transformational choice I've ever made about changing my life. Bar none. Absolutely unconditionally. It has completely shifted my paradigm to a completely new level. And I dig the frequency, you see. It's like, I'm digging the frequency big time. High vibes, big time. And I've got nothing but energy. And this morning, after all that nastiness that was coming out of me, my pee this morning, it was like coconut water. Funny how it works. So, I just want to, people ask me for a story. So this morning, Saturday morning, kids, let's have some cartoons, So, there's one. And, anyway, here's a poem. People keep asking for the poems. They seem to like them, and I like them too. I just, to bring out this book, it's like I said, I don't hang around reading this book. I read other people's books. But here's another one, and it just seems fitting. So thank you for sharing. That's my phone sharing information. This one's called Feel the Vibration. So when your thinking plagues you into dis-ease, you have the power to set yourself free. Turn down the volume, quiet your brain, let go of worry, unplug the drain. Allow your breath to establish the beat. Feel your presence from your head to your feet. Be a receiver. Chart a new course. Channeling wisdom from infinite source. We all have the tools to repair what we have. Discovering bliss when we're worried or sad. Trusting your instincts, releasing your thoughts. Feel the vibration in the rhythm you've got. Kaboom. So I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful, marvelous day. It's sun's coming back today. It's going to be sunny here in my world, and I always feel good in the sunshine. Sunshine and I get along real good. So let me see if I feel complete. Oh, I forgot a part. See, because that's just how my mind works. But I just want to finish the thought because it just came back to me. Anyway, I was telling you about how Casey Caban came along, and I like Casey Caban. He does a good job, as far as picking a creative manager, a set designer and a director. It's a good script writer. He's done a good job for me, and but then along comes WEEDU. Along comes this pee drinking guy. So. I couldn't do it. How could I help myself? Casey, said, WEEDU, you got to come on board, man. You got to do this, So that's how we got married. Casey and WEEDU, we're just stunt doubles. And, one as a producer and philosopher, and the other one's like, drinking pee and telling stories, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, peace, love, and happiness to y'all, Hope you have a beautiful, wonderful, marvelous day. And boom, you just been loved.